is, off the top of my head, the USPCA jumps out when we've got sidewalks to nowhere.
Yeah.
And I understand why, it's part of our code and it's there, you gotta do it, but if it's possible, and I think this is something we need to kick Jim Dean and staff to come up with, looking at this more comprehensively and cohesively, is the idea of a pool B makes perfect sense. Obviously, the idea is at some point there'll be sidewalks everywhere, but maybe 50 years before some of those places do anything that would require a sidewalk, that money could be much better utilized elsewhere.
Yeah.
But if you walk down the city, there's a lot of areas where there's grass, dirt, grass, sidewalk.
Here's an example, and I'm not saying this is for that wrong, but this is an example. If you look at this slide right here, that is CBS is over here, and this is where the trail is coming. This is Meadow Range, okay, coming out to, well, Merriman's Lane, it's Meadow Range coming out to Amherst. So they were told you have to put this trail in, go around in front of the building, and go that way on Amherst Street. To where? We don't really know whether that's the side of the street the trail should go on. But right now, if you follow that, you come to the end of the street. This is the entrance to Sacred Heart. You go across the street, that's a rock pile. You're going to go right down like that. So, do we want that trail to go there? I don't know. We need to decide that. So when people like this come in, there's a master plan that says, man, you're on the trail, you're going to put this in. Or no, you're never going to be on the trail. Or the MPO, you put in a standard sidewalk and you put money in the kitty because we need trail down here. Then everybody shares equally and nobody gets overburdened with trails to nowhere. And it all fits together.
Jim, is that doing?
I think it is. You can try to figure out and develop a way that you build into a sidewalk for walking trail fun, as opposed to building it in front of one house and not having it in front of the other house.
Yeah, this is just, a idea, I'm sure there's a million ways to look at it.
Very
There's pros and cons to it. So.
Yeah. If the council will give direction to staff, and they can go forth and get it to you. And I don't think any of this is really tough to get at least an initial walking trail out. And that's the kind of thing where we could go back to a couple of these foundations and say, we need 200 signs, can you give us $2,100? And we'll do it.
One of the ways they've done it in Arlington and Alexandria, and even further out in the Loudon, they developed the Old Dominion, was it the Washington and Old Dominion Trail between the railroad, is through the Washington Metropolitan Parks Authority. They created an authority to develop trail systems. Now that's a fairly radical approach, but basically what they've done is they manage some parks, quite a few of them are linear type parks that they manage and they've raised funds for. That's, like you said, there's 100 ways.
And there's a couple other things here. If we do a trail or designated trail, it could stimulate other things. Like Blue Burning's master plan is a whole series of trails in Turner. We're not going to pay for those, but if we can get our trail system out there, and then that encourages them to do theirs, and they may even have to shut hours down and do night times. That's okay. But if they'll put miles of trails, or if the Winchester Medical Center puts a trail system out, then you've got a destination to go out there. And there are a lot of citizens that are kind of sitting here saying, tell me what you want us to do, and we'll go do it. They want this thing done. They're willing to put money and time into it. And that's what I'm saying, you guys should harness it.
Very likely to move forward with that, for not just within Columbus over the weekend and say not Columbus proper, but outside of it, instead of big trails. And yet, they were playing communities and they're built as part of the development. It's great to do that to create space. But at the same time, if one of our goals is to bring in a certain population base, and they're used to certain amenities, they expect those same amenities to say, oh, we can't go to our own city. It's not a lot.
Right.
So, we may put ourselves at a competitive disadvantage by not having something.
Right. You've got things that none of those new cities have. You've got the history, you've got the topography, you've got all these things. You need to bring in the things they've got, like the trail system. It won't look exactly like theirs, but what the heck, they can't go on their trail and go past 200-year-old places and go see history and go to museums and some of the things you've got here.
It can be done. I mean, it takes more management, more creativity, but it can be done.
And
might you have a committee meeting?
Monday, Tuesday, excuse me.
And then maybe we can work with that committee and come up with a couple design plan.
We haven't met as a committee since September, because Perry asked for a break with all the infrastructure. He had a few other things on his mind. I can't imagine what they were. But we took a break to get some of these more pressing issues out of the way. So,
And one last thing I'd say is, these other groups that these citizens are involved with have a lot of knowledge of things that have been done with trails and paths across the country, so they can speed up our process as we get them involved and feel our stuff. So we should take it out.
That's the question.
That's it.
Eric, as we, we talked an awful lot about sidewalk replacement, repair, and paving. Have we, as we look at that, are we taking some green circle concepts and laying it down and see where they mesh?
Yes.
I think that's would tear up stuff.
Yeah, we're definitely doing that.
Okay.
Even in the rezoning, we sort of allocated, as you've done in the past, space for these walkway. Even not knowing where it's actually going to go, we're trying to get those easements taken care of.
To me, that should be the next big step. Let's figure out exactly where we want this thing, why we want it there, and how to get there. Steve, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
thank you.
And then on the sidewalk replacement. That's a nice little segue.
What's that?
Sorry.